right, people, it's the top of the hour on this Woman of Music Wednesday. And of course, I've got a woman in the studio with me. Of course, her name is Kenty Lichtenberg, no stranger to the radio. And I must say, congratulations to, of course, Kerai Kreative Style. Good morning, Kenty.
Good morning, Electra. Morning, St.Maarten.
Well, of course, you know, it's so wonderful to be celebrating 10 years.
10 whole years. And for me, this studio is actually like a 360 moment.
Yes.
Because when I started a blog and you came back on air, right? 2018, you was like, listen, what about a collaboration? What can we do something? You are trying to branch out with this blog and I'm trying to get back some content in air. So what can we do? When you gave me that first opportunity as a blogger, a segment with you in Grooving with Electra, and that just goes to show you how supporting each other takes you down the line. We are here 10 years, 10 years already from that moment, and yeah, it's nostalgic for me a bit,
of course,
and also it shows how many people have supported me during this journey, and I think that's very important to recognize.
For sure.
Thank you, Electra.
Thank you so much. You know, I think it's very important, definitely, you know, to empower women and also to stimulate growth. You know, other women have also paved the way for me to, you know, be able to do what I do every day. So just paying it forward to colleagues in the creative business. And of course, you know, being a creative yourself, this type of life, it's a very...
It's not for the weak.
No.
It's not for the weak of heart.
You know, and it's very, it has its challenges, it has its opportunities, but it's something that I love to do, but I think it's something that you love to do because, you know, you started so many years ago. So I'll let you, you know, tell us about your humble beginnings and, you know, bringing
Still
you to
humble.
this
Still humble.
10-year anniversary.
Yeah, so we went live on 2016. I can't say the date because I have a giveaway running online, so I won't say the date, but it was in February 2016. And like I said before, like many of you may or may not know, I started because, again, someone also was paying it forward. You know, so Leslie Samuel, who at the time was doing big things in the blogging industry, which was also new for us, for St.Maarten, had a session, a fireside chat, well, actually a rooftop at Simpson Bay Resort, and I was invited through Ife.
Yes.
Ife say, hey, I see that you've been wanting to do this thing, Leslie here, come up and see what gems you can get. And we went through the process of, you know, we listened to him, he shared his experience, what he was doing on an international level, of course,
right,
and how he was branding himself as a brand. You know me for almost 2 decades, and you know that branding has always been very, very special for me.
Yes.
I think you are your own brand, and that remains like that.
That's
right?
for sure.
So I took his nuggets and I took my experience at the time that it was not so much in the blogging industry, but I did know what I wanted to go. So I had a clear objective. I want to create a platform for women where I can educate, entertain, empower, uplift, especially the plus size community, because we have so much taboos already in the Caribbean because of our weights and, you know, how beauty is perceived.
Correct.
So I wanted to change that narrative. So that was my main objective. And I had everything ready. I had a domain, I had content, I had this, and I wasn't going live. So Leslie was like, what are you missing? So I said, well, technically, nothing. But I want to have this big reveal and invite people to the launch of the website and, you know, have this fanfare. And he was like, all of that is not needed. You just need to go live. Just do it.
Just do it, like the Nike commercial, right? Just do it.
And after that chat, and after I said, but you make sense, because I have paying for a domain for 2 years already, not using it, you know. investing in myself, doing my homework, doing my research, because blogging was very new.
Yes,
for us at this side around this time. So I needed to do some research and get educated.
Of course, because you don't want to start something and not have it being sustainable.
Correct. And I'm also not one that doesn't, I like to be informed before I venture into anything. Right? I like to be well prepared.
Of course.
Because when you are prepared, you are already confident. That's already half of the battle.
For sure.
So I needed to sell that to the community that wasn't really understanding where I was going with this blogging platform. Anyway, so between education and all of that, I said, well, I'm ready. So he was like, you just need to go live. And that evening, I had a corporate event and I went live. I took a picture. I remember my hair was wet. And I took a picture, and that was my first picture that I posted on my website, KeraiKreativeStyle.com.
Well, I think that's it. Sometimes it's fear that's what keeps us back from doing the things we want to do. Believe it or not, me too. I have some fears, and
we all do.
Wait. I just have a confession. You just said something very interesting about your domain, right? I got a domain. I've got a domain, and I just got a reminder to renew the domain, and I haven't posted it yet.
I haven't used it. Yeah, I haven't gone live.
Yeah, because sometimes especially you have be your own brand, your Kerai Kreative Style, and you do all these corporate events and stuff like that. And I saw that you added something else to your portfolio, which is being a certified stylist. Is that correct?
Yes, I did that during COVID.
Yes, so it's a constant reinventing and uplifting your brand, correct?
Yes, you can no longer afford to have the same business model for 10, 20 years.
No, you cannot.
Before. The market has changed, the consumer has changed, the consumer power has changed.
Oh, definitely.
Right? So you have to constantly be involved and engaged and looking at what is out there and how can I monetize, capitalize on the moment. I don't believe, look, we are a very trending market. We like trends and hype.
Yes.
But what are you going to do when that trend and that hype dies? Right? So that is a formula that you constantly have to keep finding out, not only for St.Maarten, but also if you want to expand and scale your business in the region or internationally. Right? What are you doing in order to put that digital footprint in place? So for me, it was always very important to create that. That was my goal always, that if you Google Kenty Lichtenberg, that something would come up that meant, that would trigger you.
Yes.
Like a kind of like a subtle call to action. So I build that on. Yes, I have the marketing and the branding, background.
Correct.
But yes, I built on that, and my intention was always build a platform that you can be found, that you're visible, right? And your content needs to trigger people organically.
Yes.
I want people to follow me for what they feel is an added value on whether it's on my website, whether it's on my social media platforms, YouTube channel, whatever that is that I'm using. I want you to organically follow me and be interested in my content. Well, that was my intention.
You said a very interesting thing, organically following you, because a lot has changed in the last few years now with AI being so up there, people buying followers and all that kinds of stuff. And as a creative yourself, I'm sure you have heard this question: how many followers do you have?
All the time.
I mean, for you as be your own brand, and you're talking about organic followers, is that something of importance to you? Because you also talked about monetizing your brand. Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
So the first thing for me is that we have to be realistic of our limitations in this market, right? Monetization through social media platforms or influence marketing or digital marketing has a different spin-off for us. It means different challenges, right? Online payment processes that we have been talking about that for at least the last 7 years that I can recall.
For sure.
Straight down, why we don't have access to these online platforms. Why can't we have access to this online platform? Because one, our size, right? Right? We're just too small for some of these brands to even invest or consider.
Right.
And another thing is that we don't have the legislation set up in order to give us that support as part of of the orange economy.
Correct.
So for me, I never, if you have to be driven by the followers and the engagement from this market, you would be depressed. You would walk around like, I don't know what to do with myself. What am I doing? But when the community sees you lives in person, they would tell you, hey, Electra, I'm following you. I'm checking you out. Good job. I saw this.
Right.
They would tell you physically. We are not
Correct.
engagers online. We are lurkers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We go online. We peep. Oh, she doing this. Oh, she going here. Oh, she's doing that. And we retain that information when we see you, because we're still a very, culturally, we're still a very in-person community.
Yes, correct.
And culturally, that is what drives us, right? When we go to lunch, when we have a business meeting,
correct.
when we have a happy hour, that's where we're going to talk about business. And I will, tell you, hey, I am following what you're doing. I love it. I'll give you tips, or you'll give me tips.
Correct.
Exchange of information, which I find should be transferable. That's also very objective. So if you have to go based on monetizing your followers, I would fall under micro, because I have under 10,000 followers. Now, I've never paid attention to followers. I've seen it grown great, right? But it has never been my driver.
No,
right?
correct,
it has
correct.
never been the driver behind everything that I do.
No, but you said something very interesting in the sense that you like people to follow you for the things that you want to authentically bring. And I think that is what people are looking for. And then that's why they follow you, because they like whatever content that you're bringing to the forefront in whichever platform that you're sharing it to. And I think about that monetization, like you said, you would be depressed if you have to think about it, because I must say that St.Maarten is a growing market, coming to the awareness of what it means to be a digital content creator, or for that matter, a creative, whether you're a painter, whether you're a poet, a dancer, a singer. And I feel that that community needs to have even more awareness, as you touched on the orange economy. Let's get in a little bit more to that, because I know that you've worked with a lot of corporate businesses and sharing your Kerai Kreative Style. Tell me what your thoughts are about that as well.
So the conversation of the orange economy, of course, is rampant right now, globally, because they project that in the next 5 years is going to be a trillion, multi-trillion,
for sure,
dollar economy.
Definitely.
Right? So, and that takes us back to how are we laying out the steps? What are we putting in place for us to be able to capitalize on that moment?
Right.
Because the digital space is not going to go anywhere. On the contrary, it's going to grow more.
Oh,
right?
yes.
The demand,
it's taking over.
The demand of that is going to only grow. So what are we putting in place? What are we doing to educate our creatives? Look, creatives, luckily, and I think me and you have both that share that criteria, that we have the creative and we have the business side, right? Because without money, you can't create. Right?
That's why they, wait. That's why they call it show business.
Right?
There's no show without the business.
Right? And although I'm not directly in the show entertainment industry, I am in the creative space.
Yes.
Right?
But it's still connected.
Yes, of course. It is connected. So while it is important to understand that the orange economy is growing, it's also important to understand what are you doing as a creative to protect yourself in terms of your intellectual property. If you're a singer, if you're a writer, if you're a poet, if you even your website, right? What are you doing to take those steps and to be ready, right? I saw a post a couple of weeks ago. A friend of mine was looking in New York. She was looking for, she was given the opportunity of a cover opportunity of a magazine.
Oh, very nice.
She said, I'm looking for 5+ size models. You have to be ready, which means that you have to have a tight portfolio. You have to have 5 pictures that are edited, ready to go, and that have not been shared anyone. 2 days after she came, she said, I got no responses. Right? So there she was offering an opportunity on her platform for you to get a feature in this magazine, but because you were not ready, you were not able to submit your picture. So what are we going to do to be ready? That is something that I always, I don't want to say boast, but I've always pride myself on that if you call me now and you say, Kenty, I need a 500 words bio from you, I can go in my email and I could forward you that in seconds, right?
I need a media kit.
I need a media kit. I could forward you that.
Exactly.
I need an editorial. I need a headshot. Something that is in our space. We have to constantly keep giving people the new, right? The new us, not the new us in terms of character, but our image, right? It goes with our branding. It goes with what you're selling. Unfortunately, a lot of us are not prepared for that moment. So what are we doing to train our creatives to be ready for when that opportunity comes, right? Well, or even to go look for the opportunity themselves, because that's another story.
Yeah, you're talking about being ready. You have under your brand, of course, be your own brand, and I know that you've given some workshops where you have helped others in this business. Tell us a little bit more about Be Your Own Brand.
So Be Your Own Brand was born right after Irma, 2018.
See that creativity, a disaster happens and then Phoenix rise from the ashes. Oh, another idea and another idea.
Yes, you have to find a way.
Yes,
so,
for sure.
Was born in the idea of Be Your Own Brand was also to give support to startups and SMEs as to finding their identity as a brand. A lot of us confuse a logo with a brand. A logo is not a brand. The storytelling and the narrative of your logo, of that image, is what tells who your brand is, who you are, what does it represent, right? It's not for nothing that you don't see Coca-Cola changing their logo and their font every 2 seconds, right? Because it's tied to their narrative, their storytelling, and their identity. It's tied to that. So when I give workshops or when I have facilitated workshops, I still do that. And behind the scenes, a lot of corporates, events, and also for the personnel, how to identify themselves. Even because when you are working for someone, you also have to present their brand.
Correct.
You have to embed their brand as if it's yours, right? So how do you merge those aesthetics, so to speak, in order for it to make sense to you? So being your own brand comes from simply being you, the authentic you.
Correct.
Right? And what people see when you walk through the door, when you come in a room.
And I think too, what is very important to note is that when you start living up to being your own brand, people identify things. They see things and they just think, that's Kenty, or that's Electra, or she likes pink, or she likes blue, or and people think about you because they correlate that to your brand, and
your
that's
story.
and that's what you say. It's not only your logo or anything. It's who you are, who you represent, what you stand for, and all that stuff is embedded in that. Oh, you see that logo. And then you're like, yes, this is what she does. That's what she does.
And as creatives in this industry that represent other people's brands,
right,
as well, aside from your own,
correct.
You also have to have that in the back burner, that you also have to present that with excellence as if it's yours. So when if you give me Electra and you tell me, I want you to do this for me, Kenty, right? You become a paying client or whatever have you, I want you to do this. This is the strategy. I am going to embody what Electra is, right? In order for me to be able to reach our goal and our objective.
For sure.
And that takes talent, but also takes discipline, because you are now representing someone else, but you need to make sure that you don't get lost into that person's brand. So you're still Kenty representing Electra.
Right.
And that has to be clear.
For sure.
Right?
No, definitely, definitely, because you're still a professional in your own right, but you still have to represent other people's brands and being professional while doing it. So it's like
grace and excellence,
it's
right?
still like a circle. You're connected, but today you're representing Coca-Cola. Tomorrow you're representing M&A Auto Parts, and stuff like that. Next day is Day Ad, and other day is another store, and you have to find a way how to keep your, how you say, brand identity that is authentically yours, but still be able to push through the other person that you are representing. I totally get it.
I have handled over 200 brands.
Oh yeah.
Many more.
Yes,
probably
for
more,
sure, for
but
sure.
We're in the hundreds,
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
And while some are bigger than others, and some are more give you the resources to be more visible than others, it's still a brand.
For sure.
So when people talk about branding, a lot of people even told me, I didn't even know that you was working in your 9 to 5. I thought that you had been on your own for so long. I was like, no, I still had my corporate, but I embody branding as if it's mine, because people need to understand that when I walk into a room representing a particular brand, it needs to be done with grace, excellence, and with the same professionalism as Kenty. Why? Because without that, Kenty doesn't exist. And what brings you the referrals, what brings you the testimonials, what brings you the next client is how you represent for others and how you show up for others and yourself.
Well, I think that's a very true statement, being in that arena myself. I think it's very important that you are professional all around, and it's not always an easy thing. And you put a very important point when it comes to creativity and being bringing the creatives up to that standard of you need to be ready. Yes, I'm a creative, but if you want to do a job, they're not gonna just give you a job just like that. You need to have like a report card, a portfolio. What work have you done? You just can't show up like, I want to do this. Show me, what did you do? It's like a reference. You need to know what it's about.
And people are always going to look at what you have done, because that is the history of what you have done,
of course,
of your work, and whatever that looks like. But the reality is that you, as whether you're creative or you're in the corporate or you have to make certain investments for yourself.
Oh yes,
right. So because that's also part of creating and uplifting your brand. So there are certain investments that you would have to make. If you walk into if I walk into a room where I have to do a workshop and I'm wearing flip-flops and a batty rider, I'm pretty sure that people are gonna be like, what's she teaching today?
And she charging so much money too?
So much money? No. They're Matin, right? Because you have to represent what you are selling. We kind of practice what you preach. Yes, represent what you're selling. If you're selling branding, if you're selling image, if you're selling styling, you can be walking around, what can I do to be safe? Yes, we all have our moments.
Of course.
We also have our human moments. But even then, you have to be tactful and remember, hey, I'm still a brand. So when people see me outside and I'm selling you, but Kenty can style herself, we'll show they're styling people. Because that's how it is. The reality and the hardcore of it is that you will be scrutinized, because you are constantly in the media. You're constantly in the limelight. So
Macroscope.
People will look at you and say, hey, that is not adding up. And maybe that day you have a very traumatic day going on and it's challenging or whatever have you, but you still have to remember, me at least try in the back of my mind, hey, remember, you're still a brand. So even when you're going to pick up bread, still you can't go and pick up bread just like anyhow, right? Because it is a moment. You don't know who you can meet. I've met people and clients at the supermarkets. Hey, I'm gonna call you tomorrow because I need a meeting. I just saw you. Oh God, I remember that I want to do this thing.
Correct.
That in the bathrooms. I mean, business happen everywhere,
and especially in this type of work. Under your brand, Kerai Kreative Style, you have to be ready to go at any time. Like you say, opportunities come when you least expect it. Like you say, sometimes you're going to the ladies' room and then you meet a CEO.
Your next client.
Exactly. So you got to be ready to pitch.
You have to be ready. You have to be ready, and your referral is your digital footprint, and that's why I cannot stress enough, even on the creatives that are up and coming. And of course, the younger generation have that down pat because they were born into this space, right? But the older generation that are still looking to create and be part of this space and dominate this space have to remember that you need to be visible. If you're not visible, you don't exist. If you don't have a digital footprint online, you don't exist.
For sure.
In Europe, people do business with you, and the first thing that they check is your online. Do you have a website? What is your social media status? What do you put on your social media? When you're going to get hired? I do it too. When I'm recruiting, I put in a name and I'm like, let me see what pops up.
For sure.
So all of that is linked to what you produce and how you represent for your own brand. And that's why for me, it has always been very important, but also has been very intentional of creating. The past 10 years have been a learning experience, and I learn every day because I like to research, I like to do things well, and I like to be able to inform you accordingly. In order for you to do that, you cannot stop learning. So for me, you stop learning the day that you die.
No,
That's when you stop learning.
You made a very interesting point in the sense that you always have to continue doing your research, like what's new, like, oh, this is trending, what's not trending. Sometimes you don't want to follow a trend, but you want to take a risk and do your own thing. But all of these, yes, but all of these things are things still that you need to research, still things that you need to find out, and you also need to have that daring feeling that you need to cold call. You need to, I call it, let's go fishing. You know, in Dutch you say, nee heb je, ja kan je krijgen.
Cold calling is very important.
You're an entrepreneur, so you don't know until you try. The only thing they can tell you, yes
or no.
Or no.
And who's gonna know?
That's
but
right.
Sure them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
yes or no.
Culturally, we are not set up for rejection, right? Rejection is something that we don't process that very well.
Right.
And cold calling is something that has gotten me very specific moments. When the blog went live, within a month, I remember I had an international feature with the Curvy Fashionista.
Yes.
Now the Curvy Fashionista is the blog to follow in the States.
Correct.
Anything that has to do with plus size fashion and bloggers, you want to be showcased on that webpage.
Of
and
course.
what did I do? They were looking for, I remember they did a post, they were looking for new bloggers to be featured, and I sent in my information.
Right.
I had a website, I had just done a photo shoot with a friend of mine. I sent in those pictures, boom, they send me back an email and say, we will be happy to feature you. You know, and that's what happened. I don't know who they are, I've never seen them before.
No, but that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. I mean, sometimes you just got to be a little risque and go out there, put yourself out there, because this is a creative space. And again, in an orange economy, if you want to step out of the comfort zone, you need to be able to do that. And then hopefully from there, something else happens and something else happens. You use it like a stepping stone,
Correct.
whether you go up, sideways, vertical, diagonal, but you still have that way of growth. You know, let's talk about more so, because at the beginning of the interview, you touched a little bit about, you know, being in this creative space can be sometimes very challenging. Let's talk about the monetizing of your brand as a creative and being a creative living in St.Maarten. How do you see that under your brand, Kerai Kreative Style?
So we've had to get creative.
I like that.
We've
I
had to get creative throughout the years to be able to monetize. You know, I have clients in the UK, I have clients in Holland, I have clients in France, I have a client, I have a few clients in the US. And it was always a challenge. How are we going to get you this money, right? How are you going to get paid? Because you don't have PayPal, you don't have what is the other one? Venmo, and all of these things. You don't have them. You don't have the
Apple Pay,
Google Pay. You don't have it. So how are we going to get you that money? So constantly that part of researching and getting creative and still trying to be compliant, right? Because you still want to be compliant as an entrepreneur.
Right.
You want to have your right declarations. You want to submit your taxes because you don't want problems with that part of the government.
No.
So you want to be compliant while at the same time you don't want to lose the opportunity.
No.
Right? So you have to have conversations with self, an accountant, and get someone involved that could guide you. And that's something that I did from the very beginning. When I realized which route I wanted to go, I made sure that I got an accountant on board that was able to facilitate some information for me. Being in this space, being in this region, what does that mean? If I get monies in from 5 different continents, the amount, like what am I liable for? What am I declaring? How am I declaring it tied into my revenues and my income?
Right.
And at the time, I was still working 9 to 5. I remember that. So I was doing 9 to 5 and 6 to 10. Right? So all of that, I say all of this because I think when you are starting a business, the first step that you need to do is good, solid research.
That's for
and
sure.
And have an advisor on board, whether that is legal, whether that is finance. Sometimes they might have to be both, depending on what you want to do with your business. But that is an investment that I tell people, try to find out first explores what are your options, especially being in this region, how you can monetize it. Look, you're not going to make money on YouTube here.
And neither on TikTok.
And on TikTok. You're not going to, guys. You're not going to.
Nope.
Unless you set up an LLC in the States that is streamlining to your business in St.Maarten, and then you have to pay taxes
in the States too. Correct.
So you have to be, like, you have to understand your limitations. So while you're up and down on TikTok and you have 20,000, yes, it's great exposure. And I have people that have found business on TikTok from the region. Right? Curacao, Aruba, St.Maarten, they are visible. It exists. It's possible. But it's not going to be your bread and butter.
No.
If that is going to be your only core, then we're going to have a problem.
For sure.
So you need to have diversification of income.
Definitely.
You have to have passive income. You have to constantly think about how am I going to monetize every segment of my business, right? And because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I did groceries some time ago there, and I see $400 in one bag, and I say, well, I cannot afford not to invoice nobody.
No. But
that is the reality.
But I think too, like you said, you're celebrating. It's a celebratory year. 10 years is not nothing. Building your brand took time, where of course you have to
overnight.
Take a lot of how you say, okay, I'll do it for you now, no problem. Okay, no problem, because at that time you were building. You were building stuff. But after a lot of years, you have experience. Exactly. You have experience, you have a great skill set, and you have a network that is a net worth, and people sometimes underestimate that.
Network
so now,
is powerful.
Before it's like, Electra or Kenty, can you do this? Yeah, we could do this back then, but where do I send the invoice? That's what I say. Where do I send the invoice?
Even charity, because I do also have a cap. I give back to our community. I speak in schools.
Yes.
I do workshops at school. And of course, that has another price point. But even that, I send you an invoice so you could see what the value of my time is. And that I choose as a company and as an entrepreneur to give back and pour back into our young ones that are coming up, because I think that is very important.
Definitely.
But don't underestimate the value of my time, because when I give you 2 or 3 hours in a workshop that I could actually be charging a corporate client thousands of dollars.
Of course.
You need to understand what that means, right?
And the value
of it. So I think the biggest takeaway for me throughout the years, and not only corporate, but also when I went full-time as an entrepreneur, was understanding my value, right? People often say, yeah, what do you bring to the table? But sometimes you're building that table yourself. You build the table, you put the chairs, you put the centerpiece, you put the runner, so we're going to go on. Right? So what is understanding that value? What does that look like? And pricing in this region is something that is critical, and it takes time. And it takes time for you to build that pricing structure as well for your business.
And now you're talking about that. And I know, like you say, being a creative is not an easy thing, especially in St.Maarten, if that's the life that you choose, that you want to live by. How do you go about dealing with, say, for instance, clients that you give them your pricing package or whatever have you, and then they look at you and it's like, you're only doing that. What do you say to clients that talk to you in that tone, that you're only doing that?
I love those clients.
I
absolutely love those clients, because that gives me the opportunity to really break it down. Right? And by the time I'm done with them, they're like, oh,
yes,
I didn't realize there was so much. Even for me to come to you to film something or to coordinate something, I have to prepare a script, I have to prepare myself, I have to do the research, I have to look into your brand, I have to drive to you, I have to guide the director, I have to guide the photographer, I have to guide the video, so I become producer, executive, guidance, stylist, all in one.
What? You can repeat that over and over.
Right? So then they go like, oh, okay. And then you see that their face and the intonation change humbly, because I break it down to them.
No, but everything has a value.
Awareness. Every line item has a value. My gas, my time, my expertise, the guidance that I'm giving you, the extras that I'm putting in, because I'm building that clientele with you, right? So yes, you have to break it down. Sometimes it's just you have to educate them and let them understand. While you think that I'm just showing up in front of this camera to be pretty and to make noise, that's not what it takes.
No.
Think of what it took for me to get to be behind this camera. You don't know if I'm sick, you don't know if my children's sick, you don't know if my world is falling apart behind.
Right.
None of your concern, because at the end of the day, you hire me to do a job, and I will do that. But take that into consideration. That many, especially women, we carry a lot of caps. We wear a lot of hats. We wear a lot of caps. So when you are trying, and not to mention that most of the time, as creative men and creative women, we also get different pay, right? Because that's the truth. Okay,
for sure.
Let's talk about equality there for a minute.
There's no,
right? So we are conscious that also happens. But even when you're negotiating on a table, also if you're negotiating,
it's unfortunate though. It's unfortunate.
It still happens, though. 2026.
That's what I'm saying. It's unfortunate,
right? Anyhow, so I say that because when people don't understand the value of your work, they're comfortable pricing your work.
Yeah, it's like,
it's comfortable.
They just want to put a price tag on the work that they think you are valued.
What they think
what do you think you're worth?
What do you think it takes to make that happen?
They don't understand what it takes. They don't.
So I like to educate those clients.
Yes,
and oftentimes then the narrative change, and then they're like, oh, I understand. And sometimes at the end of a project, they might say, girl, you didn't charge me enough. Because they'll be like, whoa, I didn't know that this could have spiral to this extent.
Or have an
impact. Sometimes a project that you think is going to take you 2 months ends up taking you double the time. Or you meet so much of bottlenecks and challenges that you constantly, project management is also something that I do.
Yes,
a lot of project management behind the scenes, right? And sometimes you get so much of bottlenecks and you're like, how am I going to solve this? But again, based on your network, how you live with people, the relationships that you have built over there, the respect you have gained from them, and the credibility.
That's the very important point right
of
there.
Your brand, the credibility of your brand. That I know if I call you lecturer and I say, listen, I want to book you, that you know that your money is secure. Because I won't call you if I can't pay you.
For sure.
And whether that is negotiable. And you might say, Kenty, because we have a relationship, this is usually what I pay, but for you, I can do it this. Or I'll say, lecturer, I have a project, this is my budget.
Yes.
This is the budget allocated for this.
That's
can
correct.
you do it? And if you cannot do everything for this budget, what can you do with it?
Right.
Because I think that is
still
respect.
Looking for a working relation.
And that's still respect. That's still understanding, okay, lecturer's worth is this. However, I only have this allocated for this particular project. Can we meet somewhere? And I say, well, Kenty, out of the 5 components, I can give you 3. But those 2, I definitely cannot throw in because it's just too much work and it doesn't cover everything that I have to do.
Correct.
Have open conversations about budgets. I think numbers scare people to death.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
So I think that is very important. When clients reach out to me, the first thing that I ask them is, what is your budget? What is your budget?
But that's a kind of tricky question too, because they're waiting for you to tell them, and they maybe have a budget in their mind, but then they don't want to say something that might offend you as well. So it's like
half of the time they offend you.
A two-edged sword, it's like like what? Yeah.
At least if I have a ballpark figure, I can understand.
Yes.
Whether it's really ignorance that you don't understand the value of the work that is going to be put into that project, or really and truly that is cost constrained, is budget constrained. Because there are 2 things. It could be that you don't understand the value and you're just taking a figure and you're saying, oh, this should cost $300, but you haven't looked at the market value. You haven't looked at the market, what's out there. I always do international price, regional price, and local price. And out of those 3 comparison, I make my price. Right?
Understood.
So what is the formula that you're using? When you ask a client for a budget, yes, they could go up and under, and sometimes they might tell you, well, no, I can't afford you, and that is fine. Then you can't afford me. Then I'm easy to refer.
To do referrals to other persons.
Absolutely. I have a lot of people in the network with different price points, different price range. However, I am charging this. And yes, while there's a lot of creatives doing the same thing, everyone does it different. And everyone has a pool of clients.
Exactly.
Everyone have their way of engaging their audience, their way of delivering to the clients, and the way of confidently representing their brand and your brand.
For 10 years celebration, oh my God, we can talk forever and ever about that, but we're almost out of time. So for your 10-year celebration. Tell me, you have any special activities on hand?
So I launched a full calendar according to some friends, but they don't read. I'm doing a few things just to highlight.
Yes,
you know,
of course.
Mom life
celebrate.
is lifing and entrepreneur, and there's other things that have to happen. There's some travel in the horizon as well coming up. So I have to be strategic about it. So we're kicking off on the 7th. I have an online interview premiere with Lily Moses.
Nice.
She came over. We did a nice interview. And why I chose Lily was because Lily has been there from the inception.
Okay.
So she has seen the evolution
going back full
of the
circle.
blog, going back, and she was a follower that became a friend that became a client.
Nice.
So that entire process was just good to talk about and to see it evolve. So that's on the 7th. On the 14th, I have a sip and stretch sunrise reflection.
Okay.
Very early in the morning. Very, very intimate, just a group of ladies, and we're gonna do some nice bonding and talking.
Very
and reflect.
nice. Very nice.
On the 21st, we are supporting Shanda Brown, who's coming from Holland, and she's gonna do her Zumba event.
Nice.
So I'm taking some ladies to the Bel-Air, and just we're gonna have some fun, dance some Zumba, and support another woman in business.
Of course, empowerment and support.
So we pass that on to others. On the 16th, I'm gonna have the 28th, I'm gonna have a pop-up and image coaching at Tea's Closet. Tea's Closet has been one of my longest standing supporters since I started with Kerai Kreative Style. They have dressed me for some of my major events and speaking moments. So shout out to Tea's Closet for always representing and empowering and dressing not only me but so many women in our community.
Definitely.
So I'll have that there. Again, small intimate moments that celebrates women, that celebrates network, that celebrates each other, that celebrate growth, right? And what's the next 10 years for Kerai? I don't know. Time will tell.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you, Kenty. Any last words that you would like to inspire creatives that are tuned in to you right now?
Be intentional and be prepared. Those would be my two things that if I have to walk away or if I have to tell anyone anything in the evolution of Kerai Kreative Style and be your own brand, it would be that. Be intentional about what you want to represent and be prepared when you're ready to represent it.
For sure. Thank you so much, Kenty Lichtenberg from Kerai Kreative Style. Of course, it's always wonderful to be empowered and be intentional. And I will add to that, be mindful. Be mindful.
Be mindful.
Yes,
Absolutely.
for sure. So congratulations once again. And
thank you for having me.
Hooray to you, and continue to be a very positive influence in your line of work and being, a woman from St.Maarten, a real Walichi, land of many strong, powerful, and influential women.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.